"Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel." She dropped the juice box when she saw me. It hit the tile floor with a pop, spraying sticky orange across her shoes. But she didn't move, not even a flinch. She just stood there, holding a toddler on her hip, staring like she'd seen a ghost in the middle of the food court. I was 3 feet away holding a pretzel. I hadn't come to the mall for some grand confrontation. Honestly, I was just there for the air conditioning and to waste time. I hadn't even showered. But there she was, the woman who once promised to grow old with me. Now clutching a child that wasn't mine, beside a man I used to know only from photos. She blinked. I didn't. Her lips parted, like maybe she wanted to say something, but whatever it was, it never came out. Just silence. And this heavy, unreal stillness, like the air itself was holding its breath. That's when her new man, Troy, strolled out of the Apple store, laughing, phone bag in hand. He didn't see me at first, just walked up behind her, kissed her cheek, and said something about a new iPad. She didn't answer. He followed her frozen gaze. Then he froze too. And suddenly, I wasn't holding a pretzel anymore. I was holding their past, their guilt, their silence. You want to know how we got here? Because I do too. And it started 2 years ago, with a single voicemail, 20 seconds long, left on a Wednesday morning while I was brushing my teeth. And everything in my life, everything, collapsed before I even rinsed my mouth. The toothbrush was still in my mouth when I pressed play. Her voice came through low and trembling, like she was trying to hold something back, but had already let it out long before. She said, "Conrad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I've been unhappy for a long time. There's someone else. I didn't plan it, but I'm leaving. Please don't try to find me." And then click. Just like that, I stood in the bathroom, foam spilling from my lips, listening to those words over and over until the battery on my phone hit red. Every time I heard her say, "someone else," it hit differently. First with confusion, then with panic, then rage, and finally numbness. I didn't even rinse. I just sat on the bathroom floor, back against the tub, and stared at the tiles we picked out together, wondering if she'd already packed her things while I slept next to her. By noon, the drawers were half empty. Her makeup bag was gone. Her denim jacket, the one with the embroidered flowers on the back, missing. Her favorite mug still sat on the table with a cold half-sip of coffee. That hurt the most, like she took everything but left just enough to haunt me. I tried calling. Once. It rang twice, then went straight to voicemail. I left a message. Just said, "Okay, I won't come after you, but you owe me more than this. You owe me the truth." She never replied. The weeks that followed were a fog. I tried to keep it together at work, but I'd find myself locking the door to my office and crying under the desk like some kind of cliché. My boss eventually pulled me aside and asked if I needed time off. I told him no, but he gave it to me anyway. Said I looked like someone who was stuck underwater. He wasn't wrong. It was a coworker, Amanda from accounting, who broke the silence. She said she saw Melina on Facebook, that she'd moved to Indiana and was posting pictures of a cabin and some guy named Troy. And then came the bombshell. Amanda said she looked pregnant. Heavily pregnant. I remember laughing when she told me. Not because it was funny, because I couldn't believe the universe would go that far out of its way to make me feel like trash. I hadn't even signed the divorce papers yet. I was still sleeping on my side of the bed, hoping she might come back. Meanwhile, she was making baby registries and planting flowers outside a home I'd never see. And the dates didn't make sense. That voicemail? It was left in March. The photos from her baby shower were posted in October. You do the math. She didn't meet Troy after me. She was already carrying his child while I was ironing her dress and packing her lunch. I used to wonder what I did wrong. If I missed the signs. If I stopped being exciting. If I got too soft. I'd replay our last month together in my head. That vacation to Maine. The night we danced in the kitchen. Her last birthday. She laughed. She smiled. She kissed me like nothing was wrong. But maybe that's the scariest part. She looked me in the eye every day and lied so well I believed she still loved me. So when I saw her at the mall, holding that toddler with the same green eyes as Troy's Facebook profile picture. Everything came back in a rush. Not the love, not even the heartbreak, just the silence she left me in, and the look on her face when she realized I survived it. I stopped checking the mailbox after a while. I couldn't bear seeing flyers for couples retreats or subscription cards with both our names on them. I even stopped turning the TV on. Everything reminded me of her. Commercials for baby clothes, shows we used to binge together, that damn coffee brand she loved. The silence in the apartment was thicker than any sound. It became my routine. Wake up, stare at the ceiling, drink cold coffee, scroll through photos I should have deleted. I started sleeping on the couch even though I lived alone now. Her scent lingered on the bed, and I couldn't take it. Eventually, the divorce papers came in a manila envelope with no return address. Just a cold signature on the bottom line and a note scribbled in unfamiliar handwriting. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. That phrase repeated in my mind for days. She'd already made it harder. She'd already burned the entire foundation and walked away barefoot like she didn't even notice. I signed without thinking, without reading. Just like that, 6 years of my life turned into a scanned PDF and a rubber stamp. I didn't tell anyone, not even my sister. I told people we were taking a break, whatever that meant, because admitting the truth felt like handing out pieces of my humiliation for others to examine. I could already hear their voices in my head. How did you not see it coming? Maybe you were too soft. She needed more. All the things I told myself every night at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling fan like it held answers. I started drinking more. Not heavy, but just enough to blur the edges. Enough to sleep without dreams. I crack open a beer and play the same 3 songs on repeat. There was one line that hit every time. I gave you all my best, and you disappeared. That lyric broke me every time, because it was true. I gave her everything. My time, my care, my dumb little surprises she used to pretend to love. And when she got bored, she evaporated like none of it mattered. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It was the way she made it look so easy. One day she was mine. The next she was someone else's everything. Smiling in photos with a nursery behind her and a man who didn't know how easily she lies. Sometimes I wondered if she ever told him. If Troy knew that while she was whispering sweet nothings into his ear, she was still eating dinner with me, still letting me hold her, still lying about where she was going. I wanted to believe he was clueless, that he didn't know she was capable of this. But part of me hoped he did know and didn't care, that he saw me as weak, placeholder, a joke, and maybe I was. The real spiral started when I saw her baby's name posted online. Milo. Short, trendy, painfully adorable. But what gutted me, and I mean gutted me, was the middle name Elias. That was the name I had picked if we ever had a son. I told her that name during one of those stupid late-night talks where everything feels possible. She smiled back then and said it was beautiful, and now she gave our name to his child. I think that broke me more than the affair. I didn't leave the house for days after that. Couldn't. I didn't want to see couples. Didn't want to smell perfume or hear children laughing. Everything reminded me of a future I was supposed to have. Until last week. Until that damn pretzel stand. Until I looked up and saw her, hair longer, child on her hip, frozen like the world had suddenly handed her a mirror she wasn't ready to face. And I hadn't even spoken yet. She didn't say a word. Not hi. Not wow. Not even my name. Just stood there, holding her kid like a human shield, as if I was the one who had hurt her. I didn't move. I didn't need to. Every ounce of discomfort she was feeling, I wanted her to feel it. Not out of revenge, but because I had lived in that exact silence for 2 years while she built a shiny new life with someone else. I didn't owe her a smile. I didn't owe her anything. Still, the way her mouth twitched like she might cry almost cracked me. Troy didn't notice me at first. He was too busy checking out his reflection in the glass, like the world was a photo op. When he finally looked over and saw me, standing still, holding nothing but stale air between us, he stiffened. His arm went around her like they were starring in some bad movie where he got to protect the woman he stole. I guess he expected me to walk away, or maybe yell, but I didn't do either. I just looked at him, at them. The toddler clung to Melina's neck and looked at me with wide, curious eyes. He couldn't have been older than 2. And something in his face, maybe the shape of the jaw or the frown forming like a mirror of mine, twisted my stomach into knots. He wasn't mine. I knew that, but he existed because of her lies. His tiny face was the product of every late-night phone call she hid, every work trip she took alone, every time she told me I was overthinking things. I walked past them without saying a word. I heard her whisper my name. Finally, Conrad. But I didn't stop. I don't know what she wanted. Closure? Forgiveness? An ego boost to know I still cared? If she truly felt sorry, she had years to say it. She chose the silence. I was just finally matching it. I didn't make it past the escalator before I had to sit down. My legs gave out near a vending machine and I sat there for a good 10 minutes, head in my hands, trying not to fall apart in public. It didn't matter how long it had been. Trauma doesn't follow calendars. Seeing her shattered everything I'd built to protect myself. It reopened every moment I tried to bury. Every birthday alone. Every voicemail I never got. Every joke I held back in conversations because she was the only one who used to laugh at them. I told myself for months that I would be okay if I saw her again. That if it happened, I'd be cool, detached, maybe even smug. But that was a lie. There's no script for seeing the person who burned your life down. No rehearsal for standing inches from the woman who made you feel invisible and realizing. She still has that power. She left the mall before I did. I watched from the food court balcony as she walked to her car, fumbling for her keys with one hand and adjusting her son's little hat with the other. Troy held the door open. She kept glancing around, like she expected me to follow, like she wanted a scene. But I never gave her that. Instead, I sat there with a pretzel I couldn't eat, hands trembling, wondering why the pain still felt so fresh. And for the first time in years, I realized it wasn't because I missed her. It was because I never got to matter in the ending. She just rewrote the story without me. But this time, I wasn't going to let that be the last chapter. The phone rang 2 days later, and I almost didn't answer. Unknown number. No voicemail. The kind of call you'd normally ignore unless you're still half haunted by someone who walked out of your life without warning. I let it buzz once, twice, and on the third, something in my gut twisted. I picked up. I wish I hadn't. Conrad. Her voice. Softer than I remembered, but unmistakable. My fingers tightened around the phone like it might vanish. For a second, I couldn't speak. I didn't even know if I was breathing. Just silence between us. 2 people standing on the ruins of what used to be a marriage. "Can we talk?" she asked. Just for a minute. I should have hung up. I should have said no. But pain does weird things to loyalty. It makes you pick up even when your heart's already bleeding. So I said, "Why now?" And she went quiet. Then she whispered, "Because you looked like you hated me, and I don't know how to live with that." I laughed, bitterly. Not because it was funny, but because the audacity of it all could have filled a stadium. "You didn't mind me disappearing when you were moving in with Troy," I said. "But now you want peace of mind? Closure?" She didn't defend herself. She didn't deny it. She just exhaled like someone who's finally forced to listen. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that," she mumbled. "I didn't plan any of this." "You planned a baby," I snapped. "You planned a new life while I was still washing your clothes and waiting up with dinner. Don't insult me by pretending it just happened." Silence again. Then she said something that nearly made me drop the phone. "He doesn't know about you, about what I did." I went still. "You never told him?" I asked. "No," she admitted. "He thinks I left a failing marriage, that we were barely speaking. I never told him I was still sleeping next to you when I got pregnant. He doesn't know I was living a lie every day." I gritted my teeth. All those nights I blamed myself. She let me carry that weight while she built a fantasy for someone else. "So why are you telling me now?" "Because you looked at me like I was a stranger. And it hit me. I became someone even I don't recognize. And I hate that you saw it." My stomach churned. It wasn't regret I heard in her voice. It was fear. fear of how easily I'd detached, how effortlessly I'd walked away at the mall, without begging, without pleading. For the first time, she was the one being left behind. "I don't know what you want from me, Melina," I said flatly. "An apology? You had 2 years." She paused. Then her voice dropped. "I want to meet. Just once. No drama. Just so I can say what I couldn't back then." I didn't answer right away. My mind raced through every moment she crushed me. Every time I begged for answers and got silence instead. But still, something pulled at me. Not because I wanted her back, God no, but because maybe, just maybe, I needed to be the one to end it this time. On my terms. "Fine," I said. "1 coffee. That's it." She agreed instantly. Too instantly. Like she'd already planned it. We chose a cafe 2 blocks from where she used to work. Neutral ground. Public. Safe. As I hung up, I felt my hands shake. This wasn't closure. This was stepping back into the fire, knowing damn well how hot it burned. But this time, I wasn't the one holding the match. The cafe smelled like burnt espresso and warm pastries, but all I could taste was resentment. I got there early and took the table farthest from the window. I didn't want sunlight. I didn't want to be seen. I just wanted to get through this meeting without unraveling. I watched every customer who walked in, flinching each time the door swung open, until finally, there she was. Melina looked different, but not in the way people usually mean it. She wasn't glowing or radiant or whatever fairy tale word people throw around when they talk about new chapters. No, she looked tired. Not physically, emotionally. Like someone who had finally started realizing the gravity of what they'd done. She had that, "I smile so people don't ask questions" expression. But I wasn't just anyone. I knew her tells. Her mask didn't fool me. She ordered something herbal. She never used to drink tea, and sat across from me without touching the cup. "I didn't think you'd actually come," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "I'm not here for nostalgia," I replied. "Say what you came to say." She flinched at the sharpness in my tone, and for a brief moment, I saw the woman I used to love. Vulnerable, unsure, human. But I didn't let that soften me. I couldn't afford to. She took a breath. "I lied to both of you. To you, I pretended everything was fine when I was already planning my escape. And to him, I erased you like you never existed. I kept telling myself it was survival, that I was just choosing happiness. But it was cowardice." I folded my arms. "And now what? You feel guilty every time you see his face? Or is it only when you see mine?" Her voice cracked. "It's both. I thought I could build something new without dealing with the ashes of what I destroyed." There it was. The metaphor. Always the metaphors with her. She used to say I built walls and held on too tightly. I used to think that meant she was deep. Turns out it was just her way of dressing up cruelty in poetry. "I was your husband," I said. "Not a phase. Not a stepping stone. You don't get to rewrite that." "I know." Her hands trembled as she picked up her tea but didn't sip it. "And I think about you more than I want to admit. When I tuck Milo in. When Troy kisses my forehead. When I laugh, and it doesn't quite reach my eyes. I wonder what it would have been like if I had stayed. If I had faced the truth instead of running." I shook my head. "You didn't run from the truth. You ran to convenience. And now that the excitement's worn off, you're bored. That's not guilt, Melina, that's regret. And there's a difference." She looked wounded, like I'd slapped her without lifting a hand. But I meant every word. Because no matter how sorry she claimed to be, she didn't just betray me. She buried me. And now that I'd clawed my way out of the grave, she wanted to pretend we could mourn together? "You don't get to make peace with me just because your conscience is noisy," I said coldly. She wiped at her cheek. "I just wanted to hear your voice. To know you're okay." I stood. "I'm not. But I will be. And that's got nothing to do with you." She looked up at me with this strange expression. Not anger, not sadness. Something closer to realization. Like, for the first time, she knew she wasn't the main character anymore. She wasn't the victim or the heroine or even the villain. She was just someone who made a selfish choice and finally saw the damage in daylight. As I walked out, I didn't look back. I didn't owe her a smile, a hug, or a damn second glance. She'd had years to choose decency. She picked silence. And now, so did I. I walked home from the cafe that day with the kind of clarity you don't expect. Not relief, not closure, just clarity. The fog that had wrapped around my life for the past 2 years had finally started to thin out, and for the first time, I could see exactly what Melina had turned me into. A shell. A man who existed in limbo, waiting for answers that wouldn't heal anything. And now that I had them, I felt nothing. Just a quiet, sharp stillness. Like realizing you'd been bleeding this whole time but were too numb to feel the cut. That night, I opened a folder on my laptop I hadn't touched in almost a year. It was filled with photos of us. Trips to the lake. Her birthday in Chicago. That blurry picture of me making pancakes while she sat on the counter pretending to be amused. I hovered over the delete button, ready to wipe it all away. But then I paused. Not because I still loved her. God, no. But because I wanted to remember. Not her, but me, who I had been before she rewrote the story and tried to cast me as a footnote. The next day I got a message. Not from Melina, from Troy. It was short, simple, almost too polite. Hey man, I think we need to talk. Coffee sometime? I stared at the screen for a full 10 minutes, heart pounding. Either she told him the truth, or he saw something in that mall encounter he couldn't explain away. And now he wanted to hear it from me? Part of me wanted to delete the message. Block him. Let them rot in their curated reality. But a bigger part, the part that had been silenced for too long, wanted to speak. Not out of revenge. Not even justice. Just truth. So I agreed. One meeting. One conversation. And I wasn't going to hold anything back. We met in a park. Neutral ground again. He showed up in joggers and a hoodie, holding a smoothie, like he was still living in a world where nothing had broken yet. He looked nervous, but calm, like a man who knew the ground beneath him might shift, but still hoped it wouldn't. Thanks for meeting me, he said. I almost didn't, I replied. So let's not waste time. He nodded. She told me some things, but I don't think it's the full story. It never is, I said. Then I told him. Not everything. I didn't need to relive all the gut punches. But enough. That she was still with me when they started. That she left without a word. That she crafted a lie so perfect. I believed she was the victim for months. He didn't interrupt. He just listened, jaw tight, eyes unreadable. When I finished, he sat in silence for a long time before finally asking, "Do you think she ever loved either of us?" That question hit harder than I expected. I think she loved what we gave her, I said. Security, excitement, escape. But I don't think she ever loved us for who we were, just who we made her feel like. He nodded slowly, like the pieces had been there all along, but he was only now willing to fit them together. Then he looked up and asked, "Why tell me this? You could have just let me live in the lie." I shrugged. Because I lived in it too, and no one deserves to stay there. He thanked me, genuinely, then walked away, shoulders heavier than when he arrived. I didn't feel triumphant. There was no satisfaction in breaking someone's world. But there was honesty. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one left in the dark. That night, Melina texted me again. He knows. I don't know what happens next. But I think it's over. And all I replied was, it should have ended 2 years ago. I didn't respond to Melina's message again. There was nothing left to say. No more questions. No more what-ifs. No final conversations to drag out what should have ended the day she walked out wearing that navy blue dress. She had built her new life on a lie, and now it was crumbling under the truth she tried to bury. But I wasn't standing in the wreckage this time. I was finally walking away from it. In the days that followed, I waited for the emotional crash, the spiral, the urge to dig through old memories or replay conversations like broken records. But it never came. Instead, I felt something strange. Lightness. Not joy, not yet. But the kind of calm that creeps in when the storm has finally passed. I started sleeping better. Eating again. Even laughed at a bad joke someone cracked in the break room at work. For the first time in 2 years, I felt like a person, not a ghost in someone else's story. I deleted the photo folder, not out of anger, but because I didn't need it anymore. I didn't need proof of who I was. I remembered, and I was rebuilding. One evening, I passed that same mall. I paused at the food court entrance. The pretzel stand was still there, the tables still crowded, life still going on like it always does. But I didn't go in. I just stood there for a moment, then smiled, not because of what happened, but because I survived it, because I didn't fade away, because I had something she'd never get back. Peace. Melina's story unraveled. Troy left. She moved out of state again, this time alone. I didn't follow the details. It wasn't my business anymore. She could rewrite her narrative 1,000 times, but it wouldn't change the fact that she once left a man who would have done anything for her, and he eventually learned to live without her. As for me, I didn't find love again. Not yet. But I found something better. The ability to look in the mirror and not flinch. The ability to walk into a room and not feel like a shadow. And that, to me, is the greatest comeback of all. To anyone who's ever been discarded, erased, or rewritten in someone else's fairy tale, don't wait for an apology to move forward. Don't let silence become your story. You matter, even if they tried to make you feel like you didn't. That's the end of this story, but maybe it's the beginning of something better for someone else. Have you ever had a moment where someone who hurt you tried to come back into your life? Did you let them, or did you finally choose yourself? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your turning point. And if you enjoyed the story, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. More emotional and unforgettable tales are coming soon, only here on Reddit Confessions.